Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish and everything in between. And this is part 98. Can't believe we're already almost at 100. Smoke, as requested by you. You want to see a tutorial on smoke, so I will gladly make one. And today we'll be painting the smoke on an interrogator chaplain. So specifically how to paint smoke when it's already on the miniature, not how to paint a smoke effect on a miniature. So we'll be using this Interrogator Chaplain, one of the limited edition models released in the Dark Vengeance starter set for Warhammer 40k back in 6th edition. So we'll start off by base coating the entire area black. You can save time if you want by priming the area black, but I just prime gray because I like a more neutral palette to start off with. So I just will take my Abaddon black, and I did add a little bit of acrylic medium, specifically matte acrylic medium, because that way it will dry much less shiny. I don't want the smoke to be shiny because that doesn't make any sense. Smoke is a very dull, almost a matte finish to it. So I always recommend, if you have possible, some matte acrylic medium, adding it to your paints. Plus it does thin down the black paint and will allow us to do a nice thin coat over the area. It's black, very dark, nice pigments from the Citadel range, so it goes over this with relative ease. You don't have to worry about thinning it down too much. But if that ever happens, just do a second coat, just to establish a solid foundation of black before proceeding to the grays, which is what the majority of the colors on this tutorial will be. I'm only using two other colors for this, two different grays in various combinations, and built up the layers of smoke, essentially one layer at a time. So as you can see, I'm just gonna take my time and get a nice solid coat of Abaddon black on the smoke area of this Interrogator Chaplain. Since there's not a lot of steps in this tutorial, I decided to do it in real time as opposed to speeding up the footage. That way you get to see how easy the effect is to accomplish. So next we're going to take my favorite color, gray liner. I've used it so many times I've worn out the label. And we're going to just apply it to basically all the raised surfaces and leave the black in the very deepest edges and the areas facing completely vertically on this area. So as you can see, I'm just leaving the very deepest recesses of these parts and building up one layer at a time, essentially. And as you can see, the smoke is very nicely sculpted, has a lot of grooves and a lot of waves to it. And feel free to take advantage of that. That's what I'm going to do today, and just build up those waves one layer at a time. And with smoke, you can kind of get away, if you want, with showing your brush strokes, because smoke has a very liquid feel to it. And that way, if you show your brush strokes sometimes, it'll actually add to the effect. It's up to you. So now we've finished up with our gray liner, which is once again a very dark matte gray. Otherwise, you can just mix Administratum gray with Abaddon black to a very dark gray color. Of course, I'll be using a wet palette today because I'll be mixing so many types. It's always great to have a wet palette and keep a little bit of each mix to go back in case to fix it. So now all we're going to do is we're going to take Administratum gray and add it to our gray liner. So it's a 2-to-1 mix of gray liner to Administratum gray, and we're going to once again build up the lines. Each time we're building up these lines, we're not going as far down, essentially. We're just building up a nice gradient. So I'm going to follow the grooves of the smoke and build up each of the raised areas a little bit less than I did the previous step, as you can see. So I'm just slowly picking up which details I want to bring up in lightness, and you can just keep doing this. Is essentially the key for smoke. You're just building up light layers at a time. You're going almost to a light gray. You can stop there. You can go to a white if you want. I like to stop at a medium tone gray, and personally I like my smoke to be slightly darker. So as you can see right now, I'm just picking up the details and building up the grooves of this nice smoke model. And then just doing the same thing at the top. The key is to keep it consistent because the smoke colors should move together. So always keep the top part consistent with, just keep it going, essentially. If you paint an area with a color, make sure that the area slightly on top of it is correct and matches it. And now we're going to take some more Administratum gray, mix it in. So now it's about a 1-to-1 mix of gray liner to Administratum gray. So now it's almost like a slightly darker than middle tone gray. And we're once again going to pick out certain grooves, not all of them. Once again, we're going to leave some of them just the previous combination, but we'll pick out certain grooves that are facing more vertically and higher up, and highlight them up using this procedure once again. And each time, as I said, going further away from the raised areas than the previous step. Kind of like when we're painting cloaks, you start with all the raised areas and work your way towards the recesses, stopping less and less down each time because you just want a nice consistent flow of colors. So now we've picked up these grooves that we really want to really shine and just keep a nice consistent gradient going. We're going to do the thing one more time with Administratum Gray and just pick up the very edges of this. And you'll find that the Administratum Gray will dry slightly darker than what's going on because, of course, I thin down every step. With the Reaper paints, you can get away without thinning them because they're so thin to begin with. But with this Administratum Gray, once again, I thinned it down with some acrylic matte medium. And I'm just going to pick up certain edges that I really want to pop. Now, if you find yourself in a case like what I do, sometimes I go a little bit too thick with my edge highlighting of these grooves, and I find it to be too strong of a contrast between this step and the previous one. The great thing about using a wet palette is then you can go back over with the previous color and just do a quick, almost like a wet blend, and thin down your highlight layer. That way, it'll only be the very edges of these areas, and it really adds to the nice blending of the smoke and the waviness of the smoke. So I'm just going to pick up the very front edges and the ones going upwards, as you can see. And it is a bit strong of a contrast. So after the back, I will go through with I'll just go back to my previous color and just blend it slightly in. And there you go. So now I'm just picking up I decided which details I really want the lines. And as I said, with most really nicely molded models with smoke, the smoke is very nicely done, and there's always the nice waves and lines to it, and you just allow those to dictate how you want to highlight up the smoke. And for this part, you can leave it slightly darker because it is facing more vertically and it's not facing upwards. Now we're just going to go back to our previous color because some of my lines are a little too thick. As you can see, I'm just going to go over with the previous step and just blend it slightly better. And thin down, sometimes I left my previous step, the Administratum Gray, a little bit too thick and too strong. So this will thin it down and blend it right back into the grays, and that way it's a nice continuous continuum, essentially, of grays and a nice gradient. And that's it. You can go one step further if you want and go with more grays, but I personally like my smoke dark and like this. I think it's more realistic and looks great. As you can see, you just start with your grays and allow the smoke, the details of the smoke, to dictate where you want to build up the lines, and just go accordingly and always keep it consistent. And if you find yourself going too thick, use a palette and then just go back to the previous step and blend it back. And that is the key to having a really nice smoke effect on this Interrogator Chaplain. So as always, thank you so much for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101, and stay tuned for next week's episode, part 99, which is just around the corner. But if you don't want to wait for next week, check out The Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel. We're not only going to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes before anyone else, you get to see almost 100 start-to-finish painting tutorials, battle reports, tons of face-off episodes, and Airbrush 101 series. So go check out The Warp. I know you'll love it. Stay tuned for more episodes. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.